Hi guys, I hope you're all keeping well and safe. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about pedagogy of reading. So in my last few videos, I've been focusing on pedagogical strategy in early childhood education. But the purpose of this video today is going to be on pedagogy of reading. This is your first time coming across the video in relation to pedagogy. You might be wondering, what is pedagogy? Pedagogy is simply defined as the approach to teaching. It's the approach that you implement in your early childhood classroom, whether as an early childhood educator, an emergent early childhood educator, to facilitate or promote learning. So today is going to be all about a pedagogy of reading. So what is reading? Reading simply means making meaning from print. Yes, so in relation to reading, it simply means making meaning from print. So you have print, and so what? What is this print all about? So you have to make meaning in relation to this print, to what this print is all about. So this is what reading is all about. As an early childhood educator, you're implementing reading as a pedagogy in your early childhood classroom. But you might not have a general understanding in relation to why reading is important in early childhood. So I'm going to talk about some of the benefits of implementing reading as a pedagogical strategy in your early childhood classroom. In relation to reading, it helps students to construct meanings about the world around them. Yes, so when the children are reading or you're reading with the children, it helps them to construct meaning in relation to what is going on around them. They have a general understanding, they have a general to what's going on around their environment. So this is true. So you're sharing a story with them, you're reading with them, you're getting them to familiarize themselves with what's going on around them. For if you're reading a story about nature, so the children is going to have a general understanding in relation to nature. Helps the children to identify words, symbols, patterns, and many more. So when you're reading with the children, they'll be able to identify the words in the story. They'll be able to identify symbols. They'll be able to identify patterns. For instance, if you're reading a story about a rhyme, a sequence, so the children will have a general understanding in relation to patterns, in relation to symbols, in relation to sequence, in relation to words. And you need to understand that in early childhood, children learn through play. So you're doing this in a fun way. At the same time, the children are familiarizing themselves with patterns, with words, with symbols around them. Children engage in reading, they are going to have a rich vocabulary. Yes, they are going to understand that in relation to early childhood, children by doing. So when you're reading a story with them, they're developing a rich vocabulary, they are picking up words, and you need to understand that early childhood is a stage that the children are absorbing whatever is going on around them. They absorb this. So when you're in a story, we have a rich vocabulary, they're learning words, they're familiarizing them words that they might not be used to. To reading as well. When you're reading with the children, it promotes holistic development. For instance, in terms of their fine motor skills, if they're flipping the pages of the books, it's going to strengthen their fingertips, their language, your non-verbal communication. You're asking them questions, they're thinking. It has to do with the young children using their imagination, social development. They're engaging in conversations with you, with their peers, with what's going on around their environment, cultural development. You're reading a story with them about their culture, spiritual development. You're reading a story about religion, about their spiritual being, for instance. It does holistic development. But there are some things that you have to take into if you're going to be implementing reading as a pedagogical strategy in your early childhood classroom. For instance, in relation to selecting the books, sure that the books are culturally respectful and meaningful. Yes, it's important. If you're going about sourcing out books for children, you have to ensure that these books dealing with the children have to be culturally respectful and meaningful. It has to respect the culture represented in your early childhood classroom. It has to be meaningful. For instance, if you want to teach them a message about a culture, they need to be able to grab something in relation to culture while you're reading the storybook with them. You need to ensure that the books does not frighten the children. You're not going to read a storybook that will make them to be frightened, that they will not be interested in reading. You need to understand that if you're reading a storybook with the children, you want them to develop a love for reading. So do not read books that frighten the children, because if you read books that frighten the children, they are not going to be interested in reading. To ensure that the book that you're going to set, it has to promote the children's interest and way of thinking about the world. Yes, so the storybooks that you're going to be reading with the children, this is where you have to observe the children. You find out about their interests, what they like, and you select a book with them that goes in line with their interest. thinking around. If you read them a story of interest to the children, they will be interested, they will want to learn more, it will prompt their curiosity, their imagination, they will want to think, they want to ask questions about the things going on around their environment. Ensure that the story of the book form, they are not torn, covers are intact. It's important. For instance, if you're reading a storybook, if you're reading a story, for instance, 20 pages and 2 pages or 3 pages are missing, so you can see that the children will not be able to follow the sequence of the story. In relation, it does the sequence. So for instance, if 2 pages or 3 pages are missing, so are the children going to follow the pattern of the story? So it's in the reading, you have to ensure that the books are not torn, the pages are intact. Important that when you're reading with the children, for instance, if you're reading them a storybook, you have to ensure that they are sitting comfortably where they can be able to see the storybooks, and you yourself, you have to be seated. You have to be seated, not slanting, you're not comfortable to the point that you're moving around. So you have to ensure that the children are seated comfortably where they can be able to see the storybook, where they can be able to see you, where they can be able to engage in discussion with you in relation to storybook. How often do you implement reading as a pedagogical strategy in your early childhood classroom? And what do you find about reading? Do you find it interesting? Do you find it engaging? Are there issues that you're facing in your early childhood classroom in relation to implementing reading as a pedagogical strategy? Please kindly leave this in the comment below, and I'll be able to give you tips in relation to, I'll be able to, and if you find this video of helpful, what do you have? Kindly subscribe. Not only subscribe, turn not only some bell, and so that what's being dropped on this channel, you'll be the first person to be notified. And until I come your way next time, stay safe and mind yourself. So now, bye.